Item A.
So moved, Madam Chair.
So move Mr. Smedberg, second Mr. Eben. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Alrighty, that passes that objection. Mr. Skiles, would you like to speak to item A?
Just the awardee is a client of mine, so I have to say.
Oh, I understand. So you're just, okay.
In that case, Madam
Against
Chair,
the
I
project
move.
itself.
Great, so can we get a motion for item A?
I move that we authorize our executive director board to contract for the value of our transit network to the Commonwealth study.
Excellent, thank you. Gonna get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McKay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And an abstention from Mr. Skiles. Thank you very much. Appreciate your integrity on that one. There we go. So the motion passes. Whew, all right, we've got this. And then so that is our consent agenda. Mr. Walkinshaw is joining us. Good to see you. So what we've all been waiting for tonight, we are so lucky and fortunate to have the brand new, hot off the presses, general manager, CEO. I know he's been to many exits and entrances in the metro already. To NVTC is general manager Randy Clark. Recently arrived from Austin, Texas. And he's here to share his observations and vision as he takes over leadership of Metro. We're so delighted to have you here. Personally representing Providence, I've got 6 metro stations, a lot of bus lines. I took in Vienna Orange Line today. It worked really well. Please come out and join us. It's a minute from my office. We'd love to see you. We're just delighted that you're here. I know that you're very dedicated in getting the writer voice and the voices of our community, and really appreciate that you're here to join NVTC as one of your very first appearances at a public meeting. It's a big deal to NVTC, as you know very well. We were founded back in 1964. I don't know if anyone in this room was here in 1964 for that. I know I was not, to help establish Metro Rail. The initial planners of Metro Rail were NVTC staff, and they even ran bus lines that are now Metro bus routes. So it's very exciting. Our cities and counties are the ones, as you know, who receive and pay the Metro subsidies, which in fiscal year 23 equaled nearly $400 million. We dedicate our local general funds and our regional gas tax for at least half of that amount each and every year. And as you know, NVTC appoints 3 out of the 4 Virginia members to the Metro board, as well as has the Commonwealth's appointee to the Metro board as part of our commission. Paul, Matt, Walter, and Mr. Aguirre, who is not here tonight, all work together to represent our cities and counties to make sure Northern Virginia has a strong, effective Metro and a voice on the Metro board. Around this table are the leaders of the NVTC jurisdictions, the cities and counties here in Virginia that are served by Metro. And most notably, we're the ones that get the bill. We will review all Metro budgets, respond to system plans, and be engaged as Metro navigates the good, the bad, and all of the times. I know that you're very excited to get to work and to help us continue these efforts. We also have a WMATA committee here, and we have additional committee meetings in addition to our MVTC meetings. So you have a very solid partner here in MVTC. We care about the Metro system. We support the Metro system. Many of us ride the Metro system, and we're here to help when needed. We want and need Metro to succeed, as it provides important regional connections to our local bus systems, BRT and VRE, that keep Northern Virginia moving. Metro is also, as you know, very vital to our economic development, both in our jurisdictions and in our entire region and our entire Commonwealth. And it helps us with major employers, including Amazon, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, Apple, Google, TSA, and so many others that are not listed here. I also really want to recognize our MVTC staff, Kate Mattice, for her leadership and for her entire team who are focused on our engagement with Metro. They manage our local, regional, and statewide funding that's used to pay Metro subsidies, conduct analysis on how Metro is serving Northern Virginia, provide technical support to our jurisdictions on Metro budgets, we could not do it without them, and so many other issues, and provide exceptional support to our Metro board members. I know we are all committed to the continued success and improvement of the WMATA system. I know that you come with a lot of energy, expertise, and I know excitement to help us hone in and continue to have this excellent partnership moving forward. It is one of those interesting systems where you have 3 jurisdictions to work with and many localities as well. So mission of our chair, who is here with us as well, your chair who's here with us today, and our entire Commonwealth. We really want to thank you, Randy Clark, for being here with NVTC and turning it over to you.
Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it. I think
if you can speak up, just because we're
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's no microphone, so I apologize. I think this is my second public meeting. We had my first week. We had actually a Metro board meeting, and so outside of that, this is my formal first public meeting. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight. I think with that warm welcome, and I won't necessarily repeat too much background, but maybe for the sake of the room, I was thinking a couple of points I could make. It's just a quick little background, some areas that I think are at least my focus. And then quite frankly, I'm new, so I'm here to listen and learn and get the most input I can. This is the community's transit system. It's not Randy Clark's. And I have this amazing opportunity to be the steward of the system for as long as the board will have me at this role, which I 6 weeks in, so hopefully a long time. And but we have a joint ownership, and we all share the same outcome. So while it is complicated with multiple jurisdictions, I think anyone would say otherwise. I would check with them, but I think there's also amazing opportunities because the region really supports Metro. And the region, though, definitely deserves a Metro that works for the region. And I think it's all fair to say right now, Metro is not working for the region to the level the region expects. I think that's pretty clear for everyone. With that said, I believe we have some tailwinds behind us to get Metro back to be the pride of this region and something that we can all really move the community forward. So just quickly on background, I had the opportunity. I worked on kind of the federal side with this. There's an institution in Boston called the Volpe Center. Does all the research, technical information for US DOT. Spent a lot of time, did some consulting, and then worked at the NVTA up in Boston. So I had a variety of roles, a lot of operational and security emergency management, and then actually served as chief safety officer for a period of time. So I've been through a fair amount of stuff. We had marathon bombings, really crippling winter storms, lots of other issues. Much older system than even here. So as bad as our system is from an age, it is very new comparatively. Trust me on that. Today, I think, was the 125th anniversary of the Green Line opening in Boston. So that gives you perspective of how old that system really is. With that said, it was a great experience. I learned a lot. Had the opportunity to come down here, work at APTA, and really understand a little bit more of the governance, the sausage making, the federal side of our business. Had an amazing opportunity to go to Austin and be the CEO of Capital Metro. The interesting part of Capital Metro, it's a different type of system, obviously, but I think arguably the fastest growing city in America. And Cap Metro in Austin had multiple failed referendums in its past. And one of the things the board tasked me with was building the partnership and coalition to move a vote by the community forward. And I take a lot of pride on that, not just because of the vote and the transit plan, but we won that ultimate vote because of the partnerships and the collaboration that we built. And we brought business and environmental partners and local government and transit advocates, labor, you name it. Everyone was at the table. And they knew the transit was, just like you all know now, it is the connection to make a viable region. There is not a successful city and region in the world that doesn't have a great transit system. There is none. All the best cities that people say, oh, have you ever been to? And they go like, oh, have you been to Paris? It's amazing. Yeah, because the transit system is amazing. That's why Paris functions the way it does. Without it, Paris wouldn't function. I just use Paris as an example. What I really enjoy about being back in the DMV is so many people understand that. Now we have to live up to the promise that you all expect. And quite frankly, the customers deserve a great system. So there is a lot of amazing people at Metro that come in and work. all day long. We have an incredibly dedicated staff, but that's not to say we can't improve. And I think I'm really so far feeling fortunate and excited about the openness of the institution that wants to kind of move things forward. I think we have a lot to move forward. What I love about transit, just personally, is, and a little bit of things you mentioned there, would be transit's the ultimate opportunity connector. So economic development, you take a look at where we are here around Courthouse. Take a look at the Silver Line corridor. That is based on the access to Metro, and you all know that, that's strong. We can't, as a society, get to our policy goals around environmental outcomes without great transit. We can't educate people and get them great education and access to hospitals and doctors and healthcare without great transit. We can't have jobs of the future without great transit. That's what's so exciting to me about transit. And that's why I'm still very bullish about the future of transit. I don't buy that, oh, with COVID, everything's falling apart. People said New York would never come back, and now New York is flooded with people again. And the same thing happened in 9/11. And, there was plagues in London 200 years ago, and London is incredibly vibrant. We are an urbanizing country. This area is growing. This is not a dead area. This is a growing area, and quite frankly, it's growing in an exciting way. Whether it's out, in the Virginia corridors with tech, or what's happening in New Carrollton with what's happening there. So I think there's so much dynamic growth potential in the region, and the backbone of all that growth is going to be Metro. So we have to get that right. So a couple of things I'm really focused on would be, I kind of said this day one, and it was kind of organically, certainly not scripted, which is I'm going to be the customer's champion. I'm on the system. Anyone that follows me on social media knows I'm on the system every day. More importantly than me being on the system, my wife is on the system. And I promise you, coming home when, the other day she's like, hey, this bus passed me by. I'm dealing with that because that means we're living the system. And that really is meaningful about, input to the system. So I see great service every day. And if I see a problem, we're working to solve those problems right away. But we're going to be customer first driven. And because that's what we do. Without customers, that's the only reason we exist. And so I don't use the word riders. I actually use the word customers because I think we have to earn their business, even though that business might be $2. I've never heard someone be called a flyer, right? Like they're customers, and we have to treat them like customers, and that's earning them. We need to increase our service frequency and reliability. I know you all know that. Public knows that. We're working really hard at that. I appreciate our partnership with the WMSC. They have a very important oversight role to play. Metro has certainly had some issues with the 7Ks. I will tell you, I personally believe the 7Ks are an incredibly safe vehicle, and we are going to return them to service. Quite frankly, they're much safer than the current legacy fleet that we are running. We've run hundreds of millions of miles on those vehicles. We have to get our processes right. I appreciate the WMSC working with us on that. And I think, not too long, we'll be able to bring back more service to the community. And I think that alone will help bring back ridership and confidence in the system. Silver Line and Potomac Yards, two incredibly important projects here for this room and this region, including the two gentlemen that sit to my right that have my cell phone on speed dial and who I work for. Potomac Yards, unfortunately, I know we have a pretty significant shutdown coming in this area. We're going to do everything we can to work with you all. I want to personally thank a lot of individuals in this room, also Kate, and then I see Jenna's on the call too. The partnership around the shuttle program and the bike share and all those pieces, we're going to make it so people can get through this disruption in the best way possible. And when we're done with that, it's one day closer to getting Potomac Yards open for business. And that is going to be a transformational project for that part of for that part of the region. And I'm really excited about that. Silver Line, every day we're getting closer. Yesterday we did another big emergency drill and exercise, and the team had no kinks at all, and it worked out really well. We'll keep learning. We're just about to get into simulation testing, not too long. So we are getting more confidence every day that we're going to get closer to the board being able to announce a date of revenue opening service. But bear with us, it's coming, and it's not as far off, hopefully, as some people think. So that's good news. I also really want to double down on our communications. I know Metro, I hope that anyone has been watching Metro for the last month will see that we are really leaning into customer communications, whether that's later at night, on weekends. We value your input. So if you have social media, if you have calls, we want to be able to be that real-time customer service for people that are on the system, whether it's trip planning or an actual issue. We want to be able to deal with that. I think we've shown improvement on that actually pretty quickly, but there's obviously more to continue to do. Public safety, certainly a little bit of concern in the region at large, and we're kind of the bloodline of the region. So we are going to be working on trying to get more visibility of our public safety police out in the system. We're going to be looking to hire some more additional staff that will provide more visibility out in the system as well. We're going to be taking on our fare evasion conversation throughout the fall. We need to create a little bit more sense of orderliness in the system, with the same time understanding that we are a public service and our goal is to move as many people as possible. A couple other things I just want to mention would be cleanliness. Most of the stations are in good shape, but they could certainly need a little bit of polish here and there. And we are going to go at that really hard, and you're going to see some more news on that pretty soon. And then the last thing I want to really be open with you all is I'm here to be your partner and work with you and collaborate. And I believe heavily in transparency. So transparency to me is that we're willing to actually have hard conversations and show optionality, and then just be all mature people and end up where we end up. And I think that's actually really healthy when the best stuff gets done. So Metro is going to lean into more transparency on the staff side. And by the way, that's not to suggest staff doesn't want to do that. I think it's just figuring out how to do it in maybe in a more 2022 style way that I think the public is looking for. So I want you all to know I'm your partner. We can't, Metro is all of us. It's one owned system by all of us. And I want you out on the system. If you want to go ride a bus or a train, please join me. If you want to come visit a station, you want to go to a construction project, hey, we'll take you out on the Yellow Line Bridge when it's under construction. We'll take you down to Dulles Yard and show you before we open. We want people to see what people, this community is putting money into to improve the community. So I probably just said too much. I'm sorry, I talk really fast too. That's maybe still a little too up north. But I'm here to listen and learn. So if there's any key takeaways I could take away, and obviously this is first of many times to get to meet with you all. So thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you. Before I turn it over, I know being back in person and hearing, at least personally, the words partnership, coalition, collaboration, transparency, those are all, obviously, we're going to hold you to it and your team. But I think those are the kinds of things we want to hear and we want to continue to see. And I feel like my husband's my toughest constituent, so I understand
That's right.
the pillow talk can make you frustrated, but you're getting some very candid feedback. And change is important, right? I wrote the T when it was still tokens, so that's gone through some changes, and I know we have some better years ahead. I assume we have some questions about, so I guess I was on my toes hoping we were about to get a Silver Line date. It doesn't look like that's coming tonight. No breaking news.
Hey, would I love to? Yes, but I just asked. We're a little more patient. We're getting closer by the day.
All right, there you go. Well, let me start with Mr. Alcorn, Commissioner Alcorn.
Thank you, Chairman or Madam Chair. So, Randy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything you're doing. A few points, several of which you've already touched on. Here at NVTC, we do an annual report. It's required by statute on WMATA, and we've already started talking about it. We haven't finalized the report, but some of the things you mentioned are definitely priorities that you will see in the report. Rebuilding customer confidence is really top line, I think, for at least the discussion that we've had so far at the committee and at NVTC. And you mentioned some of the things that are critical for that. Service restoration is one. Also, you mentioned the physical safety and security related issues. That's another one important for customer confidence. But also just overall improvements to safety and management culture at WMATA is important. So a couple of other things you mentioned, fare evasion, thank you. And making sure that's enforced uniformly across the system. Couple other things. One, simple and convenient fare structure. It's very confusing to a lot of folks and sometimes maybe counterintuitive for others, but certainly having a simpler fare structure and could go a long way for customer satisfaction. Also, and this is one that's not been mentioned yet, managing labor costs. So we'd also encourage you to focus on that going forward. So a couple of other points, bus service. So we do need to have a conversation about who runs what kind of bus service in Northern Virginia. And we also need a way to fix the way Metrobus is paid for. So, as Metrobus service has been reallocated across the region, we, in our jurisdictions and in Northern Virginia, we keep paying more subsidy for Metrobus while losing service. And that's not a sustainable combination. And something related to that is, I saw this at an NVTA meeting, Northern Virginia NVTA, earlier this year, where I saw data that only 8% in the last year of workers in Northern Virginia were going into DC for work, which means 92% were not going into DC. They were either Northern Virginia or Maryland. So there's a lot for us to, I think, talk about on the bus side. And lastly, and maybe the most challenging one of all, we're going to have to get a new financial operating model for Metro. Those of us in the room that get to vote on the tax rate and then run for re-election understand how challenging it is, particularly in Virginia and our jurisdictions that rely so heavily on the real estate tax and the impact that has on residential homeowners. So for sustainability, we really would love to see you and see all of us focus on a long-term sustainable operating model financially as well. So thank you.
Would you like me to respond or?
Yeah, if you want.
So I guess quickly I could just say, so very much appreciate that. I know we've had a couple conversations about that. A couple things, I guess, that simple, convenient fare structure. Yeah, and to be open and transparent, we probably have the most complex fare structure anywhere on planet Earth related to transit. So, but with that said, goes back to also fare recovery. I personally believe we should just put down a marker and realize fare recovery is never going to be what it used to be. There's nowhere in America that transit fare box recovery is ever going to be what it was pre-COVID. That's not going to happen. So we have to figure out, if that's the case, how are we funding the system? Because those two are interchangeably connected or integratedly connected. So it's not for me to say what the financial model should be. Certainly I have to work with the team and come up again. I believe we're going to do a lot to the board on optionality and put those factors on the table. We are probably going to be able to work with the board this year. It's going to be a little challenge, but we're hoping through a couple things to bring the board some options starting next week at our first meeting to work through board budget topics and be able to maybe close it this year. But after that, we're going to need as a region to figure out what we're doing. The challenge is a little bit, back to the jurisdictional question, is Metro in some ways is like kind of a contractor to three entities. And that's not ultimately healthy. That's not how transit agencies are supposed to operate. And again, the compact is what the compact is. It's probably easier to change the Bill of Rights than it is to change the compact. And I didn't come here to change the compact. But you all, and through this partnership, we're going to have to figure out how all of those layers of that onion get fixed. Because to me, the most important thing in the funding model is that it's sustainable and predictable. Those two things are the most important factors that we have to solve long-term versus worrying about. I think we have to put all these options before we come to what the solution is and then work through them all. On the bus service piece, we're about to kick off the bus network redesign. Actually, we just kind of kicked it off in October. We're going to really formally push it out. But that involves many jurisdictions that are in the room. And we have to figure out how to do this as one collaborative partnership. We have places where there's multiple buses in one corridor and other corridors that actually are not served well at all. And bus is equal to rail. bus is an incredibly important part of a mobility system. And in a lot of ways, people that are the most transit dependent are bus customers versus rail. And that goes into systemic inequities and a lot of other factors. So we have to figure that bus and rail conversation out. And we have a whole team dedicated to that. So the ask back would be that making sure that the teams that you all have in your jurisdictions will work in a collaborative place. You have a two-way street of how do we put the best Humpty Dumpty together. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. We saw, I'm sure as many jurisdictions, the drop in bus ridership was not the same as rail ridership during the pandemic because of the dependency in bus service. So appreciate that focus there. Let me see if there are other questions, comments from commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Bagley.
Thank you, Chair. So good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm a commissioner from Alexandria, so very much on edge leading up to the impending shutdown. So I do have a few questions and just would love to have you speak a little more on that topic. You said the phrase you used was not too long, talking about the 7,000 series. And to some extent, I'm wondering where we're going to have some, influx of 7,000 series in time to provide some relief during the shutdown period to sort of, reduce headways elsewhere. Is there any possibility that we're going to see a rise in 7Ks during that period of time, or was it beyond that?
We are working every day. So I'm going to answer this as best I can, and please, no, I'm not trying to deflect anyway. I want to be real careful how I answer this technical process, because there's two parts of the shutdown, right? And that's the first nuance. And then we have to bring 7Ks back. And we're going to be very metered in how we bring the 7Ks back. Initially, they'll be on certain lines because they're easier to manage on those lines. And then because also access to rail yards. So we haven't had I was told today, until the shutdown is done, that'll be the first time we've access to all of our rail yards since before Memorial Day. So that is a big component of how we can move equipment and where we can do different things. Like a good example is New Carrollton has been shut down since before Memorial Day. Now Alexandria is going to be very impacted, et cetera, et cetera. So and then it also involves availability of operators. So we have operators, we have equipment, and then our measuring process with WMSC, plus the shutdown. So it really is to the public, I understand they're frustrated because it's like, you have all these trains, just run them. And I wish it was that simple because we're running a sub fleet of the 7Ks as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic that in the very near future, we're going to announce bring more 7Ks back, and then we're going to ramp those up. The exact overlay on how that project, I at this point, I couldn't answer if they were going to align with that project exactly, but we know internally, if you had asked me the number one thing we are working on, it is 7K restoration. Because 7K restoration is the input to providing great service across the network.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, more information and more updates are welcome, and I think any indication that progress is being made would be appreciated. So that people continue to have faith and will stick it out if they think it's improving along the way. I'm also curious, the more limited shutdown, the September to October period, there's a host of options that are being provided in terms of express shuttles and other shuttles. Is there contingencies in place if the shutdown doesn't quite meet its goal, that those will continue afterwards? If I think it's October 23rd or whatever the goal date, are there plans in place that if you're not ready, that all those options and those shuttles are going to remain available and we won't have a little bit of a crisis there?
Yeah, I can't, forgive me that I don't have the wording on every single thing. As the chair mentioned, I'm week 6, so I'm trying to lower every single thing perfectly. I believe we have contingency built into the overall bus shuttle network planning. Like a good example is when New Carrollton opens in the New Orleans line, we still have our shuttle buses ready for a day or two. So the specific hours and days, and we will get back to you on that. But most importantly, we are going to drive as a team to be October 22nd. And, so I think you'll see that Metro hasn't done, this isn't the first shuttle for Metro. And I think most people will acknowledge they've gotten actually better over time. And I'm pretty impressed with the team. I went through the whole plan with the team. I was out personally on the Orange line watching that in preparation for this one. So I have a lot of confidence in the team. That doesn't mean like 2 Mondays from now, we're not gonna have a couple problems. But those problems will be solved by Tuesday, and then a couple little things on Tuesday will be solved by Thursday, and then we're, kind of rolling. But we'll get back to you on kind of specific, but I'm pretty sure we got it. We're working hard to deliver for that day and get back into business.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I can't always expect you have an answer today for something that hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet. I think just what we want to put out there is the idea that you've thought about it, that if we're approaching that date, we're not, oh my gosh, we have to find more contract, extend contracts,
Yep.
and sort of build that in, that cushion in. I have a sense, like I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I've got to try.
More?
Sorry, one more, Potomac Yard. The discussion is sort of the fall. Can you just speak a little bit more? Are we on track for the fall to open that station? Or have there been any surprises, in your 6 weeks that make you concerned about that delivery date?
Yeah, I can't speak to a specific date tonight. Like, I would love to come to this meeting tonight and we made big news and I said, here's a date for the Silver Line and here's the date for Potomac Yards. But
We're trying.
Yeah. And I appreciate it.
You should probably talk to the board first.
Probably a good idea.
I promised everybody in Loudoun County a specific date when Metro was going to open.
But we
This
are,
is every board meeting for me.
yeah, we are working really hard on it. Again, this shutdown is the key to get to that date. So it's kind of one step at a time. I haven't heard of one specific thing, but this is a complex project and it's not a cheap project either. So I can't speak to the exact date, but you have my commitment that we are doing everything we can to get that station. We understand the importance of this.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that again. And I don't mean to you're here, welcome to town, welcome to our meeting. And I'm grilling you, but we're being asked on our end, obviously. And on the off chance you had a date, I would have been, the hero for asking.
Yeah.
So no, thank you for being here and for the updates. We're committed in Alexandria to being a good partner, to bringing in all the supportive partnerships we can to get people into the city or around Northern Virginia. Feel free to reach out to us, keep us in the loop and, welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well, they're getting a lot of pressure because the city is actually paying for the project.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that.
Details, right?
Yes.
Good. Well, thank you, Commissioner Bagley. I know you were expecting some grilling tonight. You're
Oh,
6
that's-
weeks in, you're
hey.
doing great.
Yeah.
And I know, 6 weeks, when we come to 6 months, we're expecting that everything's resolved, right? So-
I'll be on vacation the rest of the contract. Yeah.
Good. Let me just see if there are any other questions, comments. Yes, Ms. Barbie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming and welcome to Arlington Courthouse, yes, built by Metro. I mean, that's, you got it. So thank you. I really appreciate everything you said about this. So I'm gonna take notes. So this is, I'm not gonna grill you, expect an answer. It's the 16M bus, which you may know goes down Columbia Pike, and we really want it to be ready March 23 and extend down to Crystal City and Amazon. We have this sort of strange desire to connect Amazon up and down Columbia Pike, because I think that will really work. So just put that down because you're taking notes. Thank you very much. And then I was wondering, would you talk just a little bit about kind of outreach you're thinking about with the General Assembly? Because for us, you've got these three governments and we're very much affected by the General Assembly, and Virginia's a big state, and some members of the General Assembly don't spend much time up here and aren't all that familiar with a lot of things here.
Yeah, so the first one, I made a note. I don't know the 16M at all.
I'm not
But I
expecting you to,
made a
but
note
I trust
and you
you.
can guarantee tomorrow I'm gonna ask someone about the 16M.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
and-
Amazon connecting
Yep.
labor up and down Columbia Pike.
Yep.
It's-
On the second piece, I'm not from Virginia. I'm still trying to actually figure out the lay of the land between delegates and Senate, and every state is so different and the rules are different and some are part-time and full-time. So I can't say that I have a quote unquote strategy to engage the legislature of Virginia. I have luckily a board chair and a board member who I think have a lot of skill and expertise in that category. If we're looking to their guidance on especially the Richmond relationship. The chair and I were down in Richmond last week, right? Visiting with Secretary Miller and his leadership team. I think we had a great meeting talking about Metro, and he acknowledged the value of Metro. And basically, to me, I want to make that it's all about relationships, communication, working together. And so if that means I'm going down to Richmond with the chair once a month, that's what we're doing. If we have delegation coming up here and visiting, I made that pretty open. So, and we'll be looking for this group, right? So, I mean, we all have to work together ultimately for the outcome. So, I don't know, Chair, if you wanted to.
Yeah, and Libby, on the federal level, Randy and I have met with Senator Kane and Senator Warner. Actually, we're talking about the Silver Line, but that, went into other issues as well, and they've been very supportive and were actually key to helping get the Silver Line, moving along to a point where they could start working on the issues that we have to work on, getting it ready. And then, we know we're going to have, a different kind of legislature this coming year, and we know how a lot of them feel about Northern Virginia in general. So, we've got to prepare for that. I think, Kate went down to CTV. I think that was really key in helping educate folks about the importance of transit in general. And I've heard really great feedback from that presentation. So it's just going to be a process, as you know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm just encouraging for it. Anything we can help, and as somebody who comes from New England or Boston, we're down there are a lot of us who are come here. Yeah, it's an interesting place and it's a lot of fun. And you've got some great
Yeah,
people really helping.
and I think the things that Randy is going to tackle and that we're going to work on together collaboratively within, the board and other, his leadership team, are the issues that I think resonate and are top of mind for a lot of legislators and certainly for Secretary Miller. I think, and they had a very direct, frank discussion, and the Deputy Secretary was there, and Jen was there, the Director of DRPT. So, we've started that process.
No, that's great. So maybe Senator Evan and I will work on that tour that we used to talk about, right? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep us on time. I do think Ms. Crystal had one follow-up.
Thank you. And I'll just be brief. I share Ms. Garvey's interest, my fellow Arlingtonian representative of that 16M series. And I just wanted to observe, your finance chair spent a good amount of time with me earlier. We're working that one. But I wanted to observe, I think that it's emblematic of something that has potentially been frustrating to our local staffs regionally, is that they can have terrific relationships with, planners within the WMATA system, and then feel like they're blocks that are opaque within the system, right? To getting those projects like the 16M, unstuck, for lack of a better word. I think in this case, it's very reasonable points to do with the budget. But you had mentioned in an earlier conversation, your emphasis on trying to bring down some of those silos. And I wondered if you wanted to just say another word about that, because I think we have some terrific people within the WMATA staff, and sometimes, at least for our staff, it gets frustrating when it feels like they're not empowered to coordinate with one another.
Yeah, great comment. I would be remiss to not double down on what you said. There is a lot of incredible great people at Metro, and they are really dedicated to the organization because they're dedicated to serving the community, right? So you're all in public service. That's what inspires me every day. We have people that are on the front lines of delivering public service, and there's almost nothing more front line than, say, driving a bus. It's literally, as interactive as you can get, maybe like a kindergarten teacher equivalent, like you're hand to hand with constituents. WMATA also does have a significant culture of silo. And I mean, that's been in a million reports for a long time. So it's not like Randy Clark showed up and just said, hey, you guys know you're siloed, right? To a person, people will say we're siloed. The board knows the organization's been siloed. Many of GM have tried to kind of move that culture on. I'm a pretty optimistic person. I actually believe we're going to make a lot of strides on that. And I think we're going to do that through a process with the board on a strategic transformation plan. Part of what I think the challenge is at the organization is there's not a grounded North Star. And we need to ground the organization into X amount of goals. If you have 14 goals, you have no goals, right? If you have probably 8 goals, you have no goals. So we got to say, what are our actual goals? And they need to be like significant goals. Like, say one of the goals could be net carbon neutral by 2045. That's a goal. Electric buses are not a goal. Electric buses are an initiative to implement the goal. So if we can get the whole organization grounded, a board approves a strategic transformation plan. We want to get that done by January, and we're going to have a public process, and you as partners, because that way everyone's bought in. As a region, everyone says that's Metro's mission for the next, say, 5 years or 10 years. Then the board can use its committee process to manage board workflow to get those goals. Staff can provide monthly progress and updates and action items related to the goals. We can have public facing dashboards, very transparent about how we're effectuating using the public's money to get to the public's goals. My performance can be held to those goals by the board. I can hold my management team's performance based on those, and then we trickle that down to the organization. I think that is actually going to help a lot because everything we do, there's interdependencies in everything we do. So for instance, I think there's been a culture at Metro for a long time that us is not as important as rent. I think most people would say that pretty quickly. And they're equally important to the customer, but more importantly, internally, we have to figure out how it's all treated as an integrated operation. So we're very technically driven. We kind of have our own Metro language. And quite frankly, when you get in there, there's acronyms on everything, and it's very confusing and to a lot of people and intimidating. And so that technical way creates barriers and it creates inclusive decision-making. So if we don't have inclusive decision-making, you don't have staff ownership. I want to drive down where the lowest person in the organization feels a sense of ownership and make decisions. And I also want to make it very clear in our culture that if you make a mistake, we got your back. Now, if you lie and cheat or do something else, we're going to hold people accountable like the public would expect. But if you make a mistake, that means we're trying and we're actually going to grow as an organization to acknowledge a mistake, because a mistake is not bad behavior. Those are definitely different things. And publicly, they get conflated a lot. It's okay to make a mistake, and that's how we're going to grow and learn. And if we can build that culture over years, we are going to now have a North Star that all of you can run your meeting based on our strategic plan in relation to Metro's topics, and the whole region's unified on what we're trying to accomplish. So I think that is really important. We talked to the board a lot about, the board's excited about that. I mean, I'll let them obviously say that. But I think that it's going to bring a lot of synergy between the board and the staff on how we have a joint mission to work together to deliver for the community. So sorry if that took a long time, but I think it's really important about how that all works together.
I think that's critical, and engineers might disagree with me, but culture is the hardest thing to change, but I think also would be the most powerful. So I know you're optimistic. Hopefully in the 6 months, you'll still be optimistic.
Very.
I know we have to move along a little bit, and you spoke to this a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure, since we've got you here tonight.
I still have no dates.
Very good. No, but as I know, we've talked a bit about budgets, Fairfax County, we've got our chairman here. We provide quite a bit of cash to the Metro system. And I know we have some concerns about these operating budget gaps, about any foreseeable reductions to service, either bus or rail, that might be unfortunately expected for the 24 budget. I was hoping you and maybe your finance chair over here can speak a little bit to that. Anything you can share with us about this coming year?
So what I would say now, I obviously hand it over to our finance chair, would be I'm cautiously optimistic we'll have enough options inside of our Metro kind of finances to work through this next budget year. I'm not saying those are going to be just easy, but I think we'll have enough options to
So no service cuts.
well, again, to bring to the board. What we're also working on, though, and I have the team working hard on this, is we are going to bring to the board some optionality around service and optionality around fares. And one thing the board challenged me on, and I think the chair has said publicly multiple times, was everything has to be on the table. Because if the status quo is not working, and we've just come out of arguably the most consequential crisis event in human history, if we're not, what triggering event will we use if we're not willing to do change now, right? And so we as a staff are going to be putting options together around service, and cut or increase is always in the eye of the beholder. But we're going to try to say, if this was a new system, take the rail system. If this is a brand new system, what would be the optimized way to use our assets? Because that's ultimately what we should be doing, right? How do you get the most utility out of this multi-tens of billions of dollars of infrastructure? So we're going to put some options around that, some options around fare. We're going to work with the board, and ultimately the board will have to make decisions around service and fare, and they all connect the budget. So we're in the early process of that. And we look forward to work with the board, and then over time working with our partners and the public on that.
So, yeah, like to pick up on that, I think the difference between this coming budget process and what we've done in the past is really, I think we will be very transparent about the options. We can't think of Metro as this sort of entity on an island that just, decides what to do as if all of you are really the funding, because you are. We get revenue from our service and then we get subsidies from various sources and all of us in this room. And so it's not just Metro's decision when we do have a budget gap, which we will have. It's all of our decision in terms of how much money can we put in, what can we afford, what's our jurisdictional pressures, and what level of service can we live with. And so, we are gonna put fair on the table. I've said, I think in the last meeting we had here that everything has increased in the world over the last 6 months. Everybody knows that, you're not paying the same amount for anything. So I think it's understandable and reasonable that Metro's in that same boat. Our costs are going up. Supply chain costs, labor, everything's going up. So that has to be on the table. But there's gonna be a trade-off there. If we're going with a certain fare level, service will be better. And that's just gonna have to be the decision that the community as a whole makes. What we'll do, I think, is be very transparent about the fact that we're gonna have that process. These are what the options are. These are the levers that we have to pull, and then let's get the input and decide collectively what to do. I think what's happened in the past a lot of times is sort of the budget's kind of baked. We come out with something later in the calendar year or even, the next calendar year. We have a few hearings, there's a few tweaks, and that's it. This isn't gonna be one of those years. It's gonna be, I think, a lot more open, a lot more discussion happening around what those different functions of our budget
And
are.
education with.
And
it.
Education, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just looking around the room to see any final questions, comments.
If you ask, I've got one more.
All right, you got the last one, Mr. Turner.
I'm Mike Turner, I'm from Loudoun County. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, and I'm sorry I came in late, but so we're not going to achieve fare recovery. That means the system is not going to go back to the business model we had pre-COVID. We just don't know yet what the new model is. Did I hear that correctly?
So that's my belief. I don't believe that there's a transit agency in the country, and I might get a call tomorrow from some transit CEO that says, hey, I am. And there might be, right? I don't think generally, there's a better way to phrase it, that a transit fare box recovery will be like pre-COVID. And by the way, I'm not just saying that's good or bad. I want to be real clear. I'm not trying to opine that it's good or bad. There's places around the world that are big cities that believe fare free, and notice how I didn't say free fare, because nothing in the world is free, but fare free is the way a transit system should run. I've heard a lot of analogies that say you pay for the fire department via taxes, you don't also pay a fee when the fire department searches your house. That's not ultimately Randy's decision. And there's pros and cons of all these models. Higher fare box recovery is good for certain things. Low fare box recovery is good for other things. I think, as our finance chair said, that is a deeper question that everyone has to come to grips with over time. We have to pay for the service, and we all have to agree how that's going to be paid for. So, but I do believe that fare box, especially this system was really, it's a challenging system because it was built to do two things at the same time. Trying to be a commuter rail operation and a city subway operation at the same time with obviously an attached bus system. And the long distance stuff is more challenging. Obviously, in Loudoun is a good example. So, to go from DuPont Circle to, I don't know, what's an easy example?
Inside.
I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my brain blown
To Van
dead.
Ness.
DuPont to
Farragut West.
Farragut Metro Center, right, is a very short trip and costs X. Proportionally, to go to Dulles is equivalent, I know Matt's actually from Massachusetts as well. That's like going to Worcester from Boston, but the fare is $6. So it's actually really cheap to go far here proportionally. But it might not feel that way that someone's outside because the system's been set up for so long with this complicated fare table. Because in another area, that would be a commuter rail fare that would be probably twice as much. Again, not saying one's right or wrong. We are an anomaly in transit though. We're the only place that goes across 3 jurisdictions, and we're the only fare table that does peak and non-peak that also has a distance. And again, we're really trying to do multiple things at the same time. So we're going to bring to the board some optionality around a variety of things. And I think Matt said, well, to have a conversation, and we'll see what what ultimately comes out of those conversations.
And Mike, we got to find out how are people going to use the system in the future? You know, the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you know, is gone, obviously. Is it 3 days a week? Is it this? I think we were seeing before COVID, people were reverse commuting, particularly out orange, blue, and, you know, that part of Silver. You know, I think there's going to be more of that because a lot of those younger people are living in the core in the district, but working out.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that we've got to
And
see
special,
how it's
special
gonna
events.
play out, special events. I
Yeah.
mean, there's all kinds of.
Airport, there's a,
Yeah.
you know, and we want to attract new riders too, right? So like, I believe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are actually going to be back really strong. I mean, even,
And
I
you
was on,
see it.
I was on
You see
train
it
Tuesday, what day is it? Wed- Yesterday?
Today's Thursday.
Thursday, thank you. It was very, very full. Sorry, it really has been an interesting week, really full. Friday mornings are probably never gonna be the Friday mornings that most of us remember as, you know, going to work. But Friday nights, I actually think are gonna be probably busier than they ever used to be. Because if your team's all day long, guess what you wanna do? You wanna get out and go do something. And most people wanna go, entertainment that kind of world on Friday night. So we gotta figure out, I think the chair said, well, matching customer demand in both new customers and returning customers. And it's gonna be complicated, but I think that, again, if this region was stagnant, it'd be a different question. This is a growing region and we gotta help grow transit to meet that need.
And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how people respond to the $2, flat fare for the weekends and after 9:30. I think that's going to be really
Yep.
interesting to see how people respond to that, particularly after Labor Day, when people get back into their normal rhythm, so to speak.
Well, I learned my
I think that's
lesson, so
gonna
I'm
be
gonna help
interesting.
us keep going forward.
Yeah.
Randy, thank you so much. You're welcome to stay, but I know you've got a lot of work ahead of you and a long commute home. But I just want to thank you and the chair and everyone who participated today. Thank you on behalf of us and welcome, and
Thank you.
really appreciate you being here in our region.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. And we'll be in touch soon, okay?
Sounds
And
good.
I'll exit so you can keep on your meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you. I will now turn it back over to our WMATA board members for their report. So Chair Smedberg, sorry to cut you off before, but there you go.
No. So now I'm going to sound like Jennifer Mitchell and Jen DeBrule. Please refer to your written materials for updates on recent board items, which included an amendment to the capital budget, findings of an investigation into the lapses in rail operator recertification, an update on Metro's major blue and yellow line construction projects. That is our report.
That's
Madam
it.
Chair.
Oh my
Well,
gosh, I'm sorry to cut you off. Yes,
The
go
only
for
thing
it.
I was gonna just point out about that investigation into lapses in rail operator recertification, and I said this at the meeting at the time, not a fun topic, not a fun report to read, but we had a very in-depth public discussion at the board about what happened. And
Good.
that may not sound like a big deal, but I think it is a step forward in how Metro operates, because we have to be transparent about these kind of mistakes that we're making in order to make sure they don't happen again. And so, it was a difficult thing to sit through and to listen to exactly what went wrong.
Mhm.
But I think we have the right people in place with the safety division in particular to make sure it doesn't. So I just was gonna make that point.
And Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone is now totally restored.
Oh, yes, yes.
100%
We're
restored.
back to,
Yeah.
I've been
100%.
told, back to full research.
Yeah.
That is a fact, 100%.
I've been
Perfect.
told that we're back to full.
The board's been told that too,
Yeah.
so let's hope it's true.
Yeah.
So we can
I've,
go.
I've asked like 12 times and all 12 have been yes,
So
so.
it's not breaking news, but it is.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Well, I mean, a huge culture shift. I mean, that is so important.
Yeah,
Getting
it's-
away from trying, mistakes are important to learn from, to talk about, to address
Acknowledge.
and acknowledge. They happen, right? We can't pretend they don't. So that's excellent. I mean, it wasn't a good way to get
No, it
there,
wasn't,
but I'm
but
glad
I
we
mean,
got there.
I was struck like while we were sitting through it, like, I'm not sure this kind of discussion would have happened in the past in public with all these things. Because it gives ammunition to those that don't love Metro to say, look at all the stuff you did wrong,
Right.
but we gotta air it and we have to fix it. So.
Good, excellent, thank you, appreciate that. So, well, that's a full report, amazing. And I believe next is 415C, our WMATA committee chair, Mr. Alcon.
I do have a little report here. So at the last WMATA committee meeting, which was in July, The committee reviewed NVTC staff's proposed strategies to reduce the growth in costs and improve efficiencies for the 2022 report on the performance and condition of WMATA. This is part of the statutory requirement for NVTC. So the following proposed strategies are directed at WMATA, and several of these already talked about earlier. 1, rebuilding writer confidence through service restoration, safety culture, and management reform. 2, enforcing fare evasion uniformly across the system. 3, creating a simple and convenient fare structure. 4, increasing non-fare revenues. And 5, managing labor costs. So the next 2 strategies are directed in NVTC. First is conducting a study on the policy, funding, and other implications of Northern Virginia local transit agencies, assuming the operation of Metrobus services in Northern Virginia. And 2, creating a WMATA funding and reform working group to develop and recommend aligning expenses with revenues at WMATA with a focus on existing and new revenue sources. So 2 important strategies there. NVTC staff will further develop these strategies for inclusion in the draft annual report chapter that will be previewed at the October WMATA committee meeting. So fun meeting if you can make it. NVTC staff are also provided an update, and this is in July at that meeting, on their research on Metrobus subsidy and service trends and had the following findings. First, Virginia is unique in the region where additions to bus service are mostly accomplished with local transit service. Second, historically, the amount of Metrobus service provided across the region has been largely stable, but the distribution of the service has shifted away from Virginia over time with the pandemic. And 3, the way Metrobus subsidies are currently calculated does not adequately reflect how service has changed. Virginia is basically paying more for less service. So in preparation for the upcoming bus network redesign effort, the committee asked NVTC staff to work with jurisdictional staff and develop ideas for a new Metrobus formula and ways to pay for Metrobus service so that Virginia can speak with one voice on that phase of the bus network redesign effort. So the next NVTC WMATA committee meeting is scheduled for September 29th at 6 p.m. and it will be an all virtual meeting. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to turn the right spot. Any questions or comments for our WMATA committee or WMATA chairs? We're good. You answered everything, Randy. You left us speechless.
Well, not everything.
Dates.
Maybe next time.
Good. Well, we'll really appreciate that. And I think we'll look forward. That will probably be our first full virtual committee meeting. So it's exciting. When any more of us will be able to log on. And so that is our WMATA section. And Kate, please correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe we're moving on to commuter choice.
We are moving on to commuter choice.
All right, good. So we've got staff here for commuter choice. As Kate mentioned, we're about to embark on a new round of funding for our I-395 commuter choice programs. Very exciting. So we have some new commissioners since our last I-395 round. We have Alan Hyde to give you an overview on the commuter choice program, and which is, as you know, a joint effort between us and PRTC. So Alan, take it away.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Slides, you can go back to the first slide. I'll jump right in. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the introduction, and I'll go through this really quickly because we're going to see this a lot over the next couple of months. We have several actions coming up. There are no actions tonight. This is simply a let's get started talking about commuter choice over the next couple of months. So next slide, please. So basically just a quick overview for folks just to understand what the program is. The commuter choice program invests toll revenue from 2 different corridors, I-66 inside the Beltway corridor and the 395-95 corridor. We have an agreement with the Commonwealth, with PRTC, with Transurban. It really is a public-private partnership to get those toll revenues to NVTC to invest them in high quality projects. As you can see up on the screen, there are several goals there that really drive everything that we do. The primary one being moving people through the corridor and giving people options. We want to move as many people as we can as efficiently as possible. The more efficiently you move people on that corridor, the easier it is for people that decide to drive and pay the tolls, and hopefully reduces the tolls for them as well. So a lot of different benefits that accrue from that. We have a lot of projects that have already been funded. If you take a look at the map on the right-hand side, those are all the eligible jurisdictions and all the programs. As the chair said, the next one is focused on the 395 corridor. So that is Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax County, and then all of our PRTC jurisdictions. One thing we are excited about for the next corridor is because of how programming has worked so far in the last couple of rounds, and based on the agreements we have with the Commonwealth, we're looking at approximately a $45 to $48 million program. So a pretty significant one. We've been working very closely with all of your teams, talking to them about what are some projects that are going to be eligible for the program going forward, and also having a really big focus on capital projects, these really long-lived projects you're going to see benefits for literally decades to come. So those conversations are ongoing, and we'll have more to come next month with a little bit more detail after we talk to the committee later on this month.
And
September.
Alan, just because it's really small, I
yes.
believe green just designates NVTC and blue is PRTC.
That is
but all of
correct.
those are eligible.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Perfect.
All right, next slide. So talk a little bit next about roles and responsibilities, just to give the kind of the bigger picture of how the program is structured. So obviously this is funds that are coming from the Commonwealth, whether it's from VDOT for 66 that collects the tolls, or from concessionaire payments on the 395 corridor. Those funnel through the Commonwealth. We work very closely with them on the scoring, on the collaboration, making sure they meet certain legal tests that have been out there that meets decision. They actually have ultimate decision authority on the program after influence up from the commissions. So the Commonwealth is a partner from day one on this all throughout the entire process. The next part of this is the two commissions. Since it is the 395-95 corridor, we work very closely with PRTC as well. They got the same briefing just about 20 minutes ago down there. Our team is down there as well tonight. I'm talking to them about what their role is. Their role is a co-approver. So any of the actions that end up taking place by the commission here at NVTC, there will be parallel actions down there. That is unique to the 395 program, element of the program. 66 is completely a NVTC program. So a little bit of distinction there. We work very closely also at the elected level. So we have created in the last couple of years a joint commission working group. So that is 3 commissioners from MVTC and 3 commissioners from PRTC get together, talk about different policies, talk about the projects as they come in. They actually will ultimately endorsing a program of projects the staff's put together, and then refer it to the full commission for action. After that, it does go up to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and that's where it's approved typically in June. And then the other part of that, of course, is the applicants and all the recipients. That's the folks, all the staff that work for all of you, coming up with great ideas, figuring out what makes sense, and working very closely with them. So up and down, it's a very collaborative process. Like I said, we've been working with them actually for the last probably 2 or 3 months, just getting them geared up. We executed 66 back in June. We're moving right into 395, getting folks thinking, getting folks ready to go. Next slide. So this is just wanted to throw it in there just for example. This is a graphic we came up with from the last round. We invested $23 million, 13 projects. Move a lot of different projects out there. We had some TDM, we had some van pools, we had bus service. A couple of things have done really, really well since really think this started kind of going back to whatever our new post-pandemic normal is. We've had a couple bus routes that have done extremely well. One of them are some of the longer haul bus rides from Stafford County all the way up to the Pentagon, DC. Those have recovered really well. Dash has been very successful. The service down in Alexandria have been very competitive. They've done extremely well with performance on some of those. You'll see some of the performance highlights actually next month when we look at the annual report. So stay tuned for that. We've got some really exciting news that's coming out of the program. Next slide. Right, and just one quick overview of where we're going to go from here. So The Joint Commission Working Group is going to meet on, let me get my date correctly, it's on September 5th. I saw November on the screen, sorry, September 15th, and that will be an all virtual meeting, the Joint Commission Working Group. And on the same day, we will have the Program Advisory Committee working as well. So they'll be getting a little bit of commuter choice and some other programmatic activities going on at NVTC. I'll be getting a briefing on what we're looking for, a little bit more details about process. We'll open the call for projects. We'll be coming for an action from the commissions in November to open the call for projects. And then after that, it goes back to the staff level, comes back to all of you for different approvals at your boards to get those projects submitted into the program and all the documentation that we require. We'll meet with the Joint Commission Working Group again in the spring, but that'll be after we've done our eligibility review, technical evaluation, scoring, public comment, all those. And again, those are all done very closely in collaboration with DRPT. So after that, we'll come back to the commissions in June, looking for a recommendation from the Joint Commission Working Group, and then for the commission to take action and forward it off to CTB for their approval in June. That's a very, very quick overview. There's more to come for the next couple months, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. I do see we have one question from Mr. Styles.
And we're talking about 395 and 95. Just remind me, the comprehensive agreement that was executed on I-66 outside the Beltway, does that require a guaranteed transit payment similar to 395 when the project opens in the?
There is a guarantee payment that comes from the outside the Beltway concessionaire that flows to the Commonwealth and to us. There's an agreement with an escalation of growth over the years, but there is a similar model. Same model.
And that would be in addition, of course, to the.
In addition to inside the Beltway.
I'm sorry, actually, do you know what the guaranteed transit payment is annually? I know there's the escalator clause, but do you know what the?
It started at 5 million with a 2.5% or 3% growth. I might have just got a text message. Yes, it does.
Yeah,
I can double check the exact number, but it was 5 million and then it grows. I can follow up with the exact number of how it grows.
Thank you.
Was that your hand? No. No, I haven't learned. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Fai. Appreciate the debrief, especially for those are new members. I know we've got our commission that has a lot of work ahead. It's our JCWG, I believe. All right, we're writing the acronyms down, and we look forward to seeing their plan. So really appreciate that. Thank you and your team for your work on our commuter choice program.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so next, I believe we have a written update from one of my favorite projects, the Envision Route 7 BRT packet. We should have the written one in the materials.
We do. I want to just give a little bit of a highlight if I could, Madam Chair, because we have some public outreach coming up. And so we're really excited by that. So as folks know, since its inception, NVTC has been leading the Envision Route 7 BRT project. And the goal of that is to provide a high quality, high capacity transit service between Tyson's and Mark Center and Alexandria, linking in to the West End Transitway, as well as to East and West Falls Church Metro. So right now we're in a phase that's called, a lovely names, Phase 1 4-1 Mobility Study. What that's really looking at is the movement of traffic primarily through the city of Falls Church. Fairfax County's actually done a lot of work on the northwestern edge of that. So we're sort of continuing along the corridor. And so a part of that actually is a public outreach and engagement, specifically focused on the city of Falls Church, but it really is sort of those surrounding communities. And so the first public meeting of the phase will begin this fall. And I realized that I didn't pull those out on here. Oh, there we go. It's on Tuesday, October 11th at 7 p.m. at Meridian High School. For those who've been in the area a long time, I believe that used to be George Mason High School. I had to do double check because I've lived here too long. But indeed, so Tuesday, October 11th at 7 p.m. at Meridian High School in the city of Falls Church. There's also going to be a whole bunch of community pop-up events in the community. So we have a consulting team that is going in, as we like doing, meeting people where they are to get some feedback on that. The other thing that's really wonderful about that is that we are also keeping an eye, obviously, on the congressional earmark that continues to move forward. I've got some meetings coming up in the coming weeks, circling back again with our Federal Hill partners, because we're very fortunate again to have both Connolly and Bayer move through and put that $2 million earmark so we can finish the planning in NEPA. That's where that is an important study. Now, as we move forward, the other thing that I'm really happy to say is that we've launched our strategic framework effort. The idea being that we're going to have a roadmap that will be able to work with all of you. What are the key steps that are necessary, the partnerships, the governance, and the funding opportunities that we look for to actually make this a successful project. So that actually just launched this week with Kimley Warren, our consultants for that effort. So there's a lot of things moving in the Route 7 space. So we're really just launching it to a whole new level within the next year. So you'll see a lot more about that. So I'm happy to answer your questions.
Cool. Very good. I have one quick question for you. So I know most of the western part, we did quite a bit of work on that. And while this says it's focused on City of Falls Church,
Yes.
as you know, I have a community right across the street from Meridian High School. I assume the efforts are for that sector, but it does go a little bit into the outside of the city boundary.
Well, yeah, in fact, I was gonna say really what every single part of that corridor is being studied. Some of it Fairfax County, thank you, has been able to fund and take care of. So we're taking place basically from the point at which they finish moving forward. But the outreach on this is something for everybody, right? And so we strongly encourage, and I know we've done this before, where we provide that information to each of your offices to get it out to your networks. But in particular, this is really about the movement of traffic and the things that are happening in that sort of basically Falls Church, a little bit north and west and a little bit south and east of that. So
excellent. And I guess my only request then as a follow-up, exciting that there are going to be a lot of those pop up in the community. If you could share some of those with us when they're available.
we will absolutely do that. I'm looking over our team. So yep, I got a
Okay.
thumbs up. So
Wonderful. I'm very excited to see that. I know you do multilingual and all of that. So excellent. Thank you. Any other questions on this from our commissioners? All right, excellent. Well, seeing none, thank you so much, Kate and your team. And I believe Javier, I don't know, I think he's here. There he is. He's hiding back there. Thank you so much for that. So with that, I believe that's the end of that section. Good, Transit Resource Center. And so now we are moving on to our legislative updates. We have a written update on TSDAC and federal issues. Included in the materials is an overview of the various energy efficiency grant opportunities, very exciting, from the recent Inflation Reduction Act. So it is worth taking a look if you haven't already. As Kate mentioned, the legislative agenda work will be occurring this fall, and our joint legislative event is planned for December. Fifth,
December 5th.
the 5th, in person, I believe.
Oh, yes. Down in Springfield at our usual spot.
Excellent. We're also watching the federal appropriations process. As Kate mentioned, very excited about our Route 7 earmark and the movement through that process. And so we'll keep updated on that. It's not finalized yet.
No.
So as you know more, I assume you and Amy will share that with us.
Absolutely do so.
Excellent. And you are here. I believe Amy's here. I saw her there, also hiding in the back. Any questions from our commissioners for staff on the legislative updates? Earmark process. We really want to thank you for your efforts there. Everything we can chip away and get all those different funding streams is very much appreciated. And so to that, look at that, we got ahead of schedule. Next, we have VRE, and I saw Rich Dalton arrive. He's here. VRE CEO Rich Dalton is here to give his report. The VRE Operations Board Vice Chair Walkinshaw will present the action item. And Rich, I see you're so quick. Whenever you're ready, if you could give us your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, commission members, others. In your packet has the CEO report from August, I believe, in it, and some other things. So let me just briefly just recap a little bit some of the our operating metrics for both July and August. And I'm summarizing from a service reliability standpoint for both months. System-wide, still in the remained in the similar to June in the mid 80% range, slightly below our 90% target. Primarily, we did have some maintenance away work going on the Fredericksburg line, but specifically, we did have some very onerous, if you will, weather impacts on both lines throughout July and August. ridership in July and August, similar to June, total ridership still about 35% of our pre-COVID level. But our average daily ridership, it actually leveled off in July, just at about 5,000 average daily riders, but bumped back up again in August. Again, still obtaining riders one at a time. Did want to say today, September 1st is the first day of our Fare-Free September. Not much to report there yet. Look forward to the next commission meeting and report results of that, one of which being we are doing a lot of survey work on board our trains during this time period, particularly with focusing on new riders. So imagine our onboard train conductors who would normally be doing ticket checks, they're now on board the trains seeking out new riders and trying to get some ridership, or excuse me, some survey information. So we'll compile that and that'll unfold over the next couple of months as well. So we're pretty excited about that. And then finally, just wanted to state that the governor proclaimed the month of September as Rail Safety Month for the Commonwealth of Virginia. For about the last 12, 13 years, the month of September, we nationally have recognized a Rail Safety Week nationally. But this year in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're going to do it all month long. So we do have some pop-up events, different things going on, including some briefings at the operations board this month. And so just look out for my weekly report, things that we've done, things that are coming up, and just keep rail safety at the forefront of everybody's mind this month. And that's the end of my report, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dalton. Excellent. I know I was looking at my watch, it is September 1. So I just want to commend you all for, I think, very innovative approach to try to increase that ridership, get some new riders. So I know we'll be excited to hear how the efforts go. And I love to hear that you're able to use the same staff that used to be checking fares to do the survey. So pretty cool innovations, and definitely Rail Safety Month. If you have anything that we can help push out, share out, please share it with our offices.
We have been and we will be doing that as well. I will say, some of the pop-up events that we've been doing in the month of August will continue the month of September. Since you let me back in on the conversation
Yes.
there, one thing is safety at grade rail crossings. That's a big focus of ours, okay? We're fortunate in our service area. We have 11 at grade public rail crossings on the Fredericksburg line, 9 on the Manassas line. Frankly, that's unheard of to have that few in a commuter rail operation. But nonetheless, we want to focus on those and strive for 0 incidences. So you'll be seeing some information come out about that. That is system related, not necessarily specific to VRE. Basically, again, system related that relates to all rail traffic. So once again, that's the end of my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, really appreciate it, Mr. Dalton. Yes, Ms.
I promise to be
Crystal.
brief. I'm also incredibly excited about Fairview BRE and my commendations to the board for taking that leap. I think it's great. I thought I saw a communication today that mentioned some parts of the Northern Virginia line would also be fare free in October. Is that a mirage, or is that true? And could you speak more to which parts?
So yes, I just was brief on Fare Free September, but it actually encompasses also beyond the month of September, we will stay fare free. Once again, we're a zone-based operation or a zone-based fare operation. And so we will remain fare free in zones 3, 2, and 1, which is essentially geographically, it's Franconia, Springfield North, and Back Lake Road North on the Manassas line. So we'll do that through the month of October. And obviously primarily to help mitigate,
We love it.
or be part of the solution for the Metro
That's
blue and
excellent.
yellow line shutdown. So
I think it's gonna be a great chance for some new riders to discover what a gem VRE has been all along.
Glad Randy's gone.
It's okay, a little healthy competition. everybody.
healthy, absolutely.
Wow, that's a great catch. I had not seen that. So zones 1, 2, and 3, September and October.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow,
So
excellent.
you can still go across that bridge. You just can't do it on the metro. You can do it on VRE.
Good, excellent. Thank you so much. I believe we have the Vice Chair of VRE, Mr. Walkinshaw.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one action item for VRE tonight, 8B, which is to approve resolution 2485, which is a revised VRE Operations Board electronic participation policy. As recommended by the VRE Operations Board, the commission is asked to approve resolution 2485 to approve our revised electronic participation policy to reflect Virginia Code amendments to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. They go into effect on September 1st, 2022. The revised electronic participation policy sets forth the instances when an operations board member may participate electronically in a board meeting and operations board committee meetings, and when the board and the committees may conduct all virtual meetings, the associated procedures that apply. As the VRE Operations Board is a joint committee of the two commissions, PRTC and NVTC, must approve the operation board's electronic participation policy. With that, Madam Chair, I move approval of resolution 2485.
So moved by Mr. Walkinshaw, seconded by Mr. Meyer. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, I believe that passes with full approval. Thank you, Mr. Walkinshaw. Excellent, we're moving right along. And so next up, we have, sorry, give me a second. Next up, we have the key budget issues. Did we do that?
Yeah, the information item, so in the packet, there is a summary of VRE's FY 24 budget issues. The budget will be coming back to the commission in January, this commission in January. Yep. So if you want to take a look at that, you'll see some of the things that the operations board will be discussing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walkinshaw. Any further questions, commissioners? No, thank you. I'm sorry, Kate, I am on, that's it for that one. The RPT, there we go, so quick. And I believe we have the RPT Director, DeBrule, online. There she is. If you would like to give us your report, if you're even shorter than the others, you have won the gold star today.
I will follow Mr. Smedberg's lead and say that our written report is in your package. I will highlight a couple of things for you. The Commonwealth Transportation Board will meet in September. It's the 20th and 21st in Virginia Beach. Item of interest on that agenda will be our recommendation to the board regarding WMATA's annual certifications. We did brief the secretary on that earlier this week, and I will say, without letting the cat out of the bag, everything is in good order, and I expect that to go very smoothly with our board. The other thing that I want to mention is we are doing something that's a little unconventional. We're doing a mid-cycle application for our transit ridership incentive program for regional corridors, regional routes project. That window of opportunity is open right now through the 1st of October. So just wanted to draw that funding opportunity to your attention because we're looking to support some more creative and innovative regional transit opportunities. So think about that. And if you have any questions, reach out to our staff there in Northern Virginia. We're happy to help and looking to fund some more good projects through that program. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions, and I look forward to being in Northern Virginia with you in person next month.
Oh, good. That's very, very good news. We look forward to seeing you in person as well. Thank you for your report. I really just want to highlight again, I want to thank you for your work and for Ms. Matthijs for going, I feel like your letter mentions the CTB meeting. I really want to thank Ms. Matthijs for going down there all the way to Blacksburg to speak on our behalf. I believe, unfortunately, our request was not
approved or taken into account, we are still seeing a reduction of, it was about $70 million, I believe, to our local budgets, our regional budgets, that we used to pay for Metro. I do hope that at least the conversation led to some more collaboration, communication, understanding of the importance of our transit system here, not just regionally, but for the entire Commonwealth. And I don't know, Ms. Matej, if you want to just share a little bit more about how that meeting conversation
No, I'm
went.
absolutely happy to do so. And I was also joined by Noel Dominguez from Fairfax County as well. And so what we did have the opportunity to talk about and share really the importance of a strong metro system and our role as Northern Virginia jurisdictions in contributing to that. And so we really did take that, or I really took that opportunity to obviously talk about a disappointment in the process for sort of that last minute hearing about money that had been changed. But focusing on, again, the seriousness that NVTC takes to a healthy metro. Obviously, a lot of the work that the committee has already done on priorities, I actually took that opportunity to share those. We'd actually just had that meeting the week before. And I think I was sort of pleasantly surprised at the results. I think the reaction from the secretary was very positive and wanting to be collaborative with this body. So I hope that was a little bit of an olive branch. And we really do have an amazing partnership with Jen DeBrule and her team. And I really look forward to be able to continue that collaboration as we sort of collectively look towards funding solutions in the future for Metro.
Good. Well, thank you. I know a little disappointing. I appreciate you. I think we talked a lot about transparency tonight and looking to do more transparency here in our metro region. Hopefully the continued partnership with our Commonwealth and our transportation boards will also continue to show that level of transparency and collaboration. So I really appreciate you and Noel and all who went down there. To that, I don't know, I apologize if there are questions for Mr. Brule before she had to step off. She may still be there. We're good. Any other questions or comments on DRPT? Seeing none, I believe we are now all the way to our executive director report. We're so close, 10 minutes ahead of schedule.
We are, and so I know this is really hard to focus. I only have a couple little things.
Yes, we will
First of
try.
all, I hope you guys have noticed over the months, we are really stepping up our games. Our communications team, wave your hand back there. Monique and Matt, and with contribution from staff, have been doing a really amazing job. And ironically, this is really because our printer wasn't working. So it's even better. And so we're really excited. I do hope you get to take an opportunity because it really does a wonderful snapshot of the things that are going on, the things our staff. This one in particular, we're highlighting some of the work that our summer fellows have been doing. The fellowship program, which is actually funded by DRPT, is we have been so, had such amazing talent coming through NVTC. We're hoping in the coming months to highlight sort of where they are now, because it's actually kind of fun watching the amazing trajectory of those fellows to do some really amazing things in the transit industry. So I do want to point your attention to that. I also want to say that our marketing campaign has wrapped up. And I hope that folks had a chance to either hear it or see it through a number of different means. That's a Nova Rides campaign. Matt is already working on getting all the analytics. We'll be able to get a story of that. But I think as he presented to you a couple months ago, through the roof in terms of what they call click-through, especially on our Spanish language ads. And I think it's a wonderful model. And I know that Matt had shared with me that WTOP actually sees the way that we approached our Spanish language as potentially being a model for others, because we had a full Spanish language website as well as Spanish language video. It wasn't things that were just dubbed or just sent to Google Translate. And just that little bit of extra work, I think, was really successful in getting people. And just when we talk about click through, that's clicking people to a place where they can say, I need to go from here to there. And it tells you what line, it's sort of like your how Google Maps, it's Move It, is who we've been using, and they provided that service for free. So really fantastic stuff on our marketing campaign. We talked a lot about upcoming meetings. Just keep an eye out for those. We do again have a couple coming up on the 15th and 29th. And then again, the WMATA committee is going to be meeting again on the 20th of October. We'll be back here on October 6th. And finally, if I can get the next slide put up, Xavier, if you could stand up. I did not tell him about this, but he's got to know. So we're really honored to celebrate the announcement that our own Xavier Harmony was recognized by Mass Transit Magazine as one of their top 40 under 40 professionals this year, which is quite an honor. Again, it's 40 in the whole mass transit industry. And so we're just really tickled. We've done as best as we can getting the word on social media. But I just definitely want to make sure, we are very fortunate. Xavier, you've only been here, 6 months? So we're really glad that we've got your amazing talents, as of course, along with the other talents of our staff as well. So congratulations to Xavier for that. And obviously we have our financials and I don't have anything else. That's it. I promise.
That was, amazing. Congratulations, Xavier. I also just want to commend you for continuing to bring, attract, retain such excellent staff. Okay, they really make our job so much easier and help us continue to do excellent work. So thank you. I had the opportunity to meet with one of your summer fellows recently. So exciting to see the energy there. To that, do commissioners have any? I'm not looking at Mr. Turner. Any questions or comments? About the executive director report, including the financials, any other general comments? Well, I want to thank all of you for your patience in my first last minute chairing opportunity. We got through it pretty quickly. It's 8:49 p.m. And with that.
Beats McKay.
Ooh, oh, no. Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you. Nice work. Never. That's true.